Welcome to day 21 of our Fresh Start series. We are exactly 7 days from our last recap, and in that video I mentioned that we weren't going to be continuing with daily recaps. We were going to start doing recaps when we saw significant change with our character. And it's been 7 days since that video, so I feel like now I can really show you what's happened in 1 week of play. In exactly 7 days, how much have we progressed? So let's talk about Legendary Questline first. The Legendary Questline, we've really been blitzing it. Abrogator Stones, we started on our first day as level 100, so on a Saturday we started Abrogator Stones. And between Saturday and Tuesday, the first weekly reset, we managed to finish our catch-up mechanic in Tanan, and we managed to finish all of LFR to get those Abrogator Stones, and we did a couple of naval missions. So then by that Tuesday, we just needed to do the catch-up mechanic one more time and get a couple more naval missions. So it ended up that by Wednesday, we were done, Wednesday morning. That meant that we could do our little quest line in between and get started on elemental runes right away. So the only way that we could have done it a little bit better is if we had hit 100 on Friday. Then we would have been 1 day ahead. We probably would have finished Abrogator Stones on Tuesday morning rather than Wednesday morning, and we would have gotten at least one elemental rune mission on the evening of Tuesday rather than being on the evening of Wednesday. We also would have likely seen an elemental rune mission on Wednesday morning, meaning that we really missed out on 2 elemental rune missions, and I'll tell you why that's important in a little bit. So, Abrogator Stones, we killed it. We did really well. If we had hit 100 a little bit sooner, it still would have taken 2 weekly resets because you definitely need 2 Tanan catch-up mechanics, but we would have helped ourselves out transitioning into elemental runes. So once we moved into elemental runes, we did our LFR, we did our Tanan catch-up, we started doing naval missions. Now, it takes a little coordination and a whole lot of luck between your mage tower, your mission table, and your naval table to really get through elemental runes in a timely manner. You need the mage tower to give you the instant complete work orders so that you can churn out more than 1 elemental rune mission from your naval table per day. Some of the longer ones are 8 hours, so by the time you let it run its course and come back to it at night and accept it, you're not going to get another one until the following morning. So effectively, you woke up, you accepted the mission, you sent it out, you went to work, you came home, you checked it, you accepted it. You're not going to see another one until you wake up the next morning. So you got 1 per day. But if you have the instant complete work orders from the mage tower, you wake up in the morning, you see your 32 elemental rune mission, you send it out, you instantly complete it, you go to work. You come home, there's another one sitting there waiting for you. You accept it, you instantly complete it, and then by the next morning, there's another one. So you're getting 2 per day, literally doubling the amount of elemental runes that you can get per day. Now, the luck comes in because there's a huge range of quests from your naval table. You could get 20, you could get 32, you could get 35. So obviously the more 35s you get, the better you're off. If you get a bunch of 20s in a row, you kind of get boned. The 20s are only a 4-hour mission, so oftentimes it may not be worth using your instant complete. If you're going to be playing for a while, just accept it, especially if it's in the evening. You get home from work, you've got a 4-hour, 20 elemental rune mission, just send it out, don't use an instant complete, come back before you go to bed, accept it, and then probably by the morning you're going to see another one in your naval yard. So there are some times where you're not going to always instant complete, but those 32s and those 35s you're going to want to instantly complete because there's no way you're going to be able to get back to them on a normal schedule. So elemental runes for us, we are now up to 860, and a lot of that is a reversed luck on our part. So we've been killing it all week. We've been getting 32s and 35s at least twice per day. Our mage tower has kept us supplied with instant completes. We've gotten 2 at our follower table for 18 elemental runes, and we instantly completed those as well. But the last couple of days, the closer we get to finishing this quest line, it's really started to turn against us. Our mage tower has not been supplying us with instant completes as regularly as it was. There was one day where I got 5. I averaged about 3 per day. Some days I got 2. but lately I have gone, almost 12 hours without seeing one for my mage table or for my mage tower, and we are just in a bad position. Along with that, our naval table has continuously given us 20 missions. So over the last 2 days, I've gotten 3 20 elemental rune missions out of my 4, where normally it would be like 1 in 4, and the other 3 would be 32s or 35s. If any of those other 3 had been 32s or 35s, we'd probably be done with elemental runes by now. And I was hoping that by this recap video, we would be done so that I could say, hey, we're done! We're moving on to tomes! But at the end of the day, elemental runes is the end of the catch-up mechanic portion of the legendary questline. So after we complete these elemental runes, we don't really have a rush. The only thing we can do is Hellfire Citadel for the tomes. We need 33 tomes on the next portion of the questline, and nothing is going to speed that up. There are no naval missions, there are no garrison mission table missions, there's no way to speed it up. The mage tower is not going to help us anymore. We're really just at the mercy of the bosses that we kill in Hellfire Citadel each week. Now, to that end, you can only get tomes from the Hellfire Citadel bosses 1 time per week. So right now, I haven't done anything in Hellfire Citadel for fear that looting one of those bosses will turn off that loot type. Basically, the game will see that I looted Iron Reaver once this week. So when I go to loot it again, when I'm actually on the tome questline, it's going to trigger that you don't get a tome because you've already looted this boss. So right now we're having to hold off on doing Hellfire Citadel Normal, Heroic, LFR. We just can't even go in there because we're going to screw ourselves out of getting some tomes this week. And because tomes doesn't have any catch-up mechanics, we really can't afford to lose any boss kills. This last portion of the quest could take you 6 weeks, it could take you 3 weeks, it could take you 4 weeks. Maximum 13 tomes per week, and you need 33 tomes. One of my alts actually got 11 3 weeks in a row and was done in 3 weeks. This will be week 1. Even though we're still working on elemental runes, we haven't done anything with this raid lockout, so this technically will still be week 1. Even if it takes us till Sunday to get our last 40 elemental runes, we are still going to be on this raid lockout. So if we did all of the LFR on Monday and got 11 tomes, on Tuesday, the week resets, and we get to go right back in there and get more tomes. But then we don't get to go back in until the following Tuesday. So they seem close together, but it's all hinges on that Tuesday weekly reset. So Legendary Questline is underway, it's being handled, and we're still on par to do it as quickly as humanly possible. After this portion, though, we are at the mercy of the boss drops in Hellfire Citadel and just having the time to do LFR. There's no increased chance at getting tomes by doing it on normal, heroic, or mythic. So if you're just looking to get tomes, run yourself through LFR. You could also just run LFR for the parts that you're not killing bosses. Let's say you're focusing on upper tier. So you're doing, Iskar normal up through Archimonde normal. Then all you'd have to do is the LFR of the lower floor. So the first 2 wings of LFR. And you can really just, however it makes sense for you to time it out and get it farmed, you just want to make sure that you do at least every boss, regardless of difficulty, 1 time in the weekly reset. So that's about it for the Legendary Questline. How much progress have we made on our character? So on day 14 of our recap, we were sitting at like a 677 eye level equipped. We still had pieces that we were crafting that were like 1 of 6. So we were still dumping a bunch of money into getting our crafted gear leveled up and maxed out. We didn't have a whole lot of Valor caps. I think by day 14 we hadn't done many mythics. I think we had done like 2. So since then we've done every mythic at least once. And we've gotten a lot of Valor. Let's go ahead and start looking at our gear. As you can see, we went from a 678 to a 708 eye level. And that's in 7 days. I'm pretty proud of the speed at which we geared ourselves. Now, 7 days of Apexis farming equals out to about... You're averaging about 15,000 per day. So you can buy, if you're doing the table in your garrison and you're doing all of Tanan, then you're averaging about 14,000, 15,000 Apexis per day. And that means that you can buy 3 Baleful pieces, or you could get missives to increase yourself from 15 to 20,000, but that costs garrison resources. There were a couple of days where we farmed missives to get to 20,000, and getting to 20,000 means that we can buy an empowered Apexis fragment, which allows us to boost a baleful item from wherever it is, whether it's 650, whether it's 660, whether it's 675. It allows you to boost that to 695, and then with Valor increases, you get it to 705. So in those 7 days, we managed to get every piece of baleful gear that we wanted fully upgraded and empowered, with the exception of our bracers. They are just empowered, they are not Valor capped. But we'll go ahead and look through what we've got. So we managed to get into Hellfire Citadel normal within those last 7 days, since our day 14 recap. And we killed... who did we kill? We killed Council, Kilrog, Gorefiend, Cormrock, Manaroth, Sokrathar, and Zul'Harrak. So we killed all of the tier bosses. We only managed to get one piece, and we didn't have any rolls left because we had spent them on other things like Kazakh, and I think we spent some in LFR because, like I said, we were at a 678 eye level. We were looking for anything. Whether it was LFR or whether it was Kazakh loot, we were looking for anything to increase our eye level. So we ended up using our rolls before we managed to get into Hellfire Citadel normal. So I won this hat just based off of a normal roll. Just a random roll, I happened to win it. So a little lucky there. The neck piece, perfectly itemized. Got it empowered, got it Valor capped. Shoulders we got from a Mythic Dungeon. Mythic Dungeon loot can go all the way up to 725 before you Valor cap it. So this was a 715. This was a 715, and we gave it 10 eye levels by upgrading it via Valor. Now this isn't perfect itemized stats, it's crit mastery. We would much prefer crit multi, but because of the huge eye level and the massive increase to the primary stat, and the fact that it was heavy on the crit side, we're not going to be replacing this with anything other than tier. And likely we want to replace this last. So if we got shoulders next, we probably wouldn't equip them until we had enough to get 4-piece. And I would do everything in my power to keep these as my off-piece for right now. Once we start getting into heroics, that'll change. We're still rocking the cloak that we earned off Kazakh early on, but now we have it Valor capped, and it's a 715. We managed to empower and fully Valor cap this chest piece, just a huge chunk of crit. Really awesome. And we balanced this by getting a trinket that had multi-strike on it. And as you can see, this is also empowered and Valor capped. The bracers, again, like I said, they're crit verse, which is why they haven't been upgraded via Valor. They were like the last piece. Because we thought maybe we'd get a better pair of bracers that we could empower, we didn't want to dump our Valor into this just yet. It does have crit on the heavier side, so we were okay with it. We primarily wanted to get our eye level up, and this assisted in that. These were previously a 650, and they held our eye level down by like 2 in terms of average item level. Gloves, they're crit multi, they're heavier on the multi side. This is fine. Obviously, we'd prefer if it was heavier on the crit side, but you can see they're empowered and upgraded twice. Belt, same thing, heavier on crit, secondary multi, empowered and Valor capped. This one was another one where we were looking to get multi-strike, but we just could never find it. And again, we just wanted to get our eye level up. The hope is that on this reset, we'll be able to get into heroic Hellfire Citadel. And in order to do that, we need to be as close to 710 eye level as humanly possible. So we just saw this as an opportunity to boost our eye level a little bit. It's still good. It's still got crit. Verse isn't awful, but obviously we'd prefer that it was multi-strike. The crafted boots, we managed to get to level 6 of 6. They're 725s, again, crit multi. Ring, empowered, upgraded twice, crit multi. This piece is still holding us back, but we're held back on this because of how far we are into our legendary quest line. It's kind of humorous that every other piece of gear that we have is a higher eye level than our current version of the legendary questline ring, and that's due to so many catch-up mechanics in Tanan. That's due to how quickly and easily you can get item level. So probably tomorrow or the next day, whenever we finish up elemental runes, this will become a 715, and it will actually help our eye level. Probably boost us up to 709. It might take the bracer upgrades in Valor to get us a 709. I'm not gonna try and figure out what that math is. The Skull of War was 1 of 6 on our day 14 recap, We've since gotten it to 6 of 6. When it came to upgrading these, we didn't buy the finished product. We bought Fellblight, and we bought the sorceress items that we needed, and we had someone craft it for us. And then we paid them for their war paints, which is the soulbound item that you need to level up inscription items. So we ended up putting a good bit of money into this, but gold really hasn't been an issue. So we wanted to get as much power as we can. And we already talked about this, which was empowered and upgraded multi-strike to kind of counteract the huge chunk of crit with no multi on the chest. And here, we had the 6 of 6 Shred Iron pretty early on. I think we had it on day 14. This was the first thing we worked toward. Weapon is huge. Getting this leveled up to max hugely improves your character. So gear-wise, we went from 678 or 677 to 708. Huge eye level increase. We really managed to get a lot done in terms of our own character's power. Let's look at our wealth. I believe we were somewhere around 3 grand, 2 grand, 3 grand on day 14. And as you can see, we're still pretty low. It's not like we haven't made gold. We've made a lot, but we've also spent a lot. We have flying. This mount comes from the flying achievement. So, as you can see, we can now fly in Draenor. That cost us 8,500 gold for the 2 increased speeds of flying. The only flying we still haven't purchased is the Wisdom of the Four Winds, which allows us to fly in Pandaria. If you're going to go back and do stuff in Mists of Pandaria, go ahead and grab this, right? You're going to want to fly there. But this is about 2,400 gold, and I just haven't seen the need to spend on it. It's just, we're not going back there to do anything. But somebody who's going to be playing an account for a long period of time and wants to go back and experience the things that they didn't get to see or they weren't around for, they'll spend the gold on this. And 2,400 is really a drop in the bucket. So we're at Master Riding. That's what we spent our 8,000 on. Now, when we did it, we didn't have enough money to buy both of them. So the day that we finished up flying, we went back to Stormwind, we bought the first one, and then we went ahead and did our Cata raids for the week. At a 708 eye level, the Cata raids were butter. They were so easy. We just went through, we wrecked them all. We didn't even use our pet to tank anything. We just face tanked it. We killed it all. We moved on. We made our 7,000 gold, and we bought the second level of flying, and moved on from there. Now, flying in and of itself was a little interesting. I always thought that the requirement here for Tanan Diplomat was to be exalted with these factions. And it wasn't until like day 18 or day 19 that I realized that it's revered. Now for the Saberstalkers, this doesn't make much of a difference. Getting exalted, from friendly to exalted, took me about 3.5 hours. We just got in a group out in Tanan, and we farmed it up. Now we had the trading post, and we are human, so we're getting 32 to 33 rep per Saberon kill. And we were getting 650 rep per rare kill. So if your group knows what they're doing, you're just going to murder this. I mean, I got in completely random groups. Nobody was over-geared. We just went out there, we killed the cats, we farmed it, and we were done in 3.5 hours. I did 2 different sessions. I got to Exalted on one session, and then I farmed up Exalted, maxed out from Revered to Exalted on the second session. So 2 Revered on the first session, and then 2 Exalted on the second. But both of them happened in the same day. It was just, I broke for lunch in the middle. So Hand of the Prophet and Order of the Awakened were the time-gated ones. You can only get so much rep per day from these factions. Order of the Awakened, with a trading post and being a human, you get 1,950 per day. It actually worked out that on the day that I got flying, 1,950 was the exact amount I needed to hit Revered. So I was at 0 of 21,000 Revered. Worked out really well. Now, it's important to keep in mind that we didn't have our trading post the whole time. So we did do Tanan for about 4 or 5 days with the inn rather than the trading post, because we were still trying to get Aviana's Feather to pop. If I knew that the reputation rewards, if I knew that this achievement triggered at Revered, I probably would have built my trading post first and done everything in my power to get the trading post leveled to 3 as quickly as possible. You only need 1 Exalted rep to get the level 3 building. So the achievement is really easy to get for this. It's not gated like the herb garden or the mine. The Council of Exarchs, we were already like 21,000, well 20,000 out of 21,000 revered. So it did not take much to get this to Exalted so that I could build the trading post. The other benefit to the trading post is that it doesn't require any garrison resources to build. It only requires gold. And it actually generates garrison resources for you. So having known how quickly I would get flying, I probably would have built this first rather than building the inn. The Aviana's Feather is awesome, and we did use it to help explore. We did use it to get to some of the treasures. So it's really up to you whether you get it. It helped, but I think maybe having the trading post sooner would have gotten us to the point where we were revered with Hand of the Prophet and Hand of the Prophet and Order of the Awakened sooner, which would have allowed us to get flying maybe a day or two earlier. The flying achievement in and of itself, everything else that we needed for it didn't take very long. I think we did most of it in an afternoon. Let's look at each one individually and we'll kind of remember. So the exploration of Draenor, through the leveling process, we pretty much got this achievement. Frostfire, because we don't have any quests out there and it's the Horde starting zone. This just requires that you go out there and run around. You're not going to have this just through questing because we're never sent out there. For me, I managed to find every zone except for one little area in Nagrand, and a couple of areas in Shadow Moon that I knew were level 100 and I just didn't bother going to during the leveling process because there was nothing there for me. So finishing up Explore after the leveling process only took maybe an hour of just running around on your ground mount. I used Aviana's Feather to kind of move around Frostfire and then to transition from Frostfire over to Nagrand. So maybe it'll take you a little bit longer if you don't have the feather. Securing Draenor, we did this in one day. Securing Draenor now just requires that you do each one of the missives, which are all purchasable by Sergeant Crowley up here. So all you need is, I believe there's 8. It might be less than that. If there's 8, then it's only 1,600 garrison resources, which we didn't have any problem disposing of to get this achievement done. So basically we picked up all of them. Most of them are 2 per zone, so you go out to Nagrand, you do the 2 there, you hearth back to your garrison. Go up to Gorgrond, you do the 2 there, hearth back to your garrison. And you just rinse repeat, and that took us an afternoon to do. Lore Master took us a little bit longer. Through the leveling process, we managed to finish every campaign series in each zone while leveling. So Shadowmoon Valley was done. Gorgrond, done. Talador, completely finished by the time we hit level 100. Nagrand, we did, I think, 4 of the campaign quests, so we had like 1 or 2 more to do there. That took us maybe 30-40 minutes. And then Spires of Iraq was the longest one. We had done the pinch whistle portion of the campaign quest to obtain the salvage yard early on, so that was done. And we had gone down there to do bonus objectives. Meanwhile, we picked up a couple of quests, and we managed to finish one of the other campaign quests. So we were 2 of 9 in Spires. So it took us about 2.5, maybe 3 hours to go down there and finish up all the quests. And if you're at this position, I highly recommend pulling up the quest series, like in a guide, and making sure that you don't do any of the optional quests. Like if you're really pushing for flying, you're going to spend too much time doing the optional additional quests that are in Spires. But if you're not in a hurry to get flying, you might as well just do it. It's gold, it's reputation. I wanted to get through it because we still had a lot to do that day. So I skipped anything that was optional, and we dropped anything that we didn't need by the end of it. So Lore Master, all in all, after the leveling process, took us about 4 or 5 hours of questing to finish up. So all of these things, I would say, everything for this achievement, aside from Tanan Diplomat, where you just have to do the quests every day, is achievable in a weekend. If you just put your mind to it and you focus on it, you can knock it out in about 10 hours of play. Master Treasure Hunter, we found 52 treasures while leveling, and the other 48 treasures, we just spent maybe an hour in Shadowmoon Valley combined with Gorgrond to finish that up. Now, Gorgrond has a lot of treasures because of the 2 buildings that you can choose from when you do your campaign quest. You have a choice between a Brawler's Coliseum and a choice between that and a Shredder. The Shredder allows you to access treasures that are hidden behind vines, and the Brawler Coliseum allows you to access treasures that are hidden under boulders. There's quite a few of each of those. There's probably close to 30 vines and probably the same amount of boulders. So whichever one you pick, there's going to be a huge amount of treasures to find out in Gorgrond. In terms of treasures elsewhere, Nagrand has a lot, but most of these are in a tree, on the side of a cliff, in some really annoying place. It's super aggravating to get these. They designed almost every single treasure out here to be a jumping puzzle. There are some cliffs over in this area that have like goblin rocket parachute things on them, so some of these treasures that you need, you have to like fly off a cliff and land in the perfect place to get it. And then you have to run all the way back up to the top of the cliff, jump off again, and go left to land in a tree to get another treasure. And then you have to run all the way back up and go a different way, right? So you got like 3 treasures from the same cliff. You don't have flying, you have to constantly run around. So this is definitely more of a project. And if you like that kind of challenge, if you like platformers and that sounds fun to you, go ahead, try it before you get flying. Because once you have flying, they're all super easy to get. You just fly to the position and you pick it up. Frostfire has a lot of treasures as well, and they're much like the ones in Shadowmoon Valley. Now, Shadowmoon Valley is much more of a flat plain than Frostfire is. Frostfire, especially around this area, has a lot of hills and valleys, so the treasures out here are going to be slightly harder than they are in Shadowmoon. As you can see, I got every single treasure in Shadowmoon. I have the map that shows you where the treasures are, just like Talador, just like Nagrand, so I got all of them here. Gorgrond, I got most of them. There were a lot of vines in this lower area, and this is where I finished up. And once I got the achievement for flying, I bounced. So there's certainly more treasures out there for me to find if I really felt inclined to. So once we found out that flying only required Revered with the 2 factions that were daily gated, we really started to get to work on this. And getting to work on it only required a couple afternoons worth of work. So flying in Draenor significantly easier than I had anticipated. So much easier. And really that's just based on the fact that I thought it was going to take 30 days to get exalted with those 2 factions. Needing Revered, we were done by day 18, so 8 days into max level, and we were done with the achievement. Flying in 8 days, it's pretty huge. Maybe it was 9 days. Somewhere in there, but somewhere between 8 and 9 days. We got to Exalted. And that's as a human and with a trading post. So if you don't have a trading post and you're not a human, maybe it takes you 12 days. Maybe a little bit closer to 2 full weeks. But even then, still super easy. So we've talked about our legendary quest line. We have talked about where we've come in terms of gear. We have achieved flying, which was one of our items on our checklist. So 11 days into max level, and what are we still stuck on? Our buildings are still level 2 for the most part. The Mage Tower was one of the first ones we got to level 3. This could be actively farmed. We just went out and farmed 500 Ogre Waystones. And that's how we're getting our instant complete work orders. So this is absolutely a priority once you hit level 100. And because it can be actively farmed, you could essentially get it on day 1 of being level 100 if you wanted. The mobs that I farm are out in Gorgrond in the Stone Mall Arena. They're level 92s, so once you're level 100, regardless of your eye level, you're going to be 2-shotting these guys. Farming up 500 Waystones took me about an hour, and those 500 Waystones have lasted me all the way to this point. And I still have 36 of them left, and I still have a full Mage Tower. I still have 21 in there, and it's 5 per work order, so still have a ton in there. So the 500 that you farm initially for the level 3 building plans is going to last you through all of the legendary quest line, which is noticeable. Which is something to note because you don't want to have to go back out there and farm them if you don't need to. After the legendary quest line, the instant complete work orders don't really provide much benefit. The Mage Tower is still great because it allows you to port around the world. Even with flying, this is still pretty strong, and I'll likely keep this building. If I wanted to tear this down, I would tear it down for a Dwarven Bunker. The Dwarven Bunker gives you item level upgrades for your followers, and if we were going to be playing this account more long term, I would probably tear this down and put a Dwarven Bunker in there. On top of giving you your item level upgrades for your followers, it also gives you your first re-roll token, or your bonus roll token for free each week, so you don't have to spend any resources on it. Normally you can buy 3 per week. This one gives you one for free, and then you have to spend, you know, Apexis crystals, garrison resources, or honor or gold on the other two. So that's really the only building that I would tear this down for. Trading Post has been level 3 for a while. We built it once we had our first Exalted faction. I wasn't going to build it until I could get it to level 3, because level 3 is when you start to get the reputation bonus. And before that, we didn't really have much use for it. The garrison resources are nice, but each day it requires something new for you to donate to get those garrison resources. So today, it's Frostweed. And we had plenty of Frostweed, so we went in and put in our full orders. Yesterday it was Crescent Saberfish. We don't have any of that. So yesterday I couldn't submit any new work orders, but because we've got, you know, because we've got 21 work orders in, it's going to last us a couple days. Even if we get unlucky for 2 days, we're still likely going to have missions going, and we're never actually going to fall off of those missions. Today I earned the level 3 salvage yard. You have to salvage 100 items, and this just requires that you send out missions. Over the last 7 days, since our last recap, we have been sending out more and more missions because garrison resources have been more prevalent. We've just had a lot more to use. So this still took a little while. Salvage yard was probably built on our 11th or 12th day, so 1 or 2 days after being max level, and we didn't get it until today. So 8-9 days to get this to max, depending on how many missions you're sending out. Again, that's going to be random. Results may vary. But for me, it was about 10 days from max level. Jewel crafting hut and the tannery, we still haven't bothered to level up to 3. There's really not a whole lot of benefit from those other than just being able to put more work orders in, which means that we could ignore them more often. The tannery has been giving us burnished leather, and we used it for a couple of different things. We crafted the riding harness just for shits and giggles, really. It's a ground mount, so likely we won't use it much, but I just wanted to craft it. It gave us 15 points. We managed to get maxed out leather working. But the burnished leather, we're still going to keep grinding on this in case we need to upgrade another piece of gear. There's always the chance that we do Heroic Manaroth and we get a bow, and then we drop this one piece out of our 3 pieces of crafted gear. And in that case, I would probably craft bracers, which means that I would want to have as much burnished so that I could do it myself. We're only sitting on 77, so it's unlikely I would be able to go to 6 of 6 and craft it myself. I'd still have to resource out to the auction house and other crafters for that. But if we don't get the bow for a really long time, chances are we're going to have many more burnished leather to our disposal. We still aren't putting any work orders in at our jewel crafting hut because we don't need talidite crystals. We don't have jewel crafting. So really the only reason this is here is to put a follower in it and do the daily for anywhere between 200 and 300 gold. The more characters you have, the more profitable this is. Making 200 gold per character every day really can start to add up. So our barn is still level 2, and we still have a good ways to go on it. We need Master Trapper, which is 150 work orders placed. Let's check to see where we're at with that. 87 out of 125. So we still have a little ways to go on this. It's likely that it'll be late next week before this happens, unless we start spending our garrison resources on barn rush orders, which will instantly complete 5 of our work orders. So we've got 14 in there. I could spend 1,000 garrison resources and complete 5 of these. And the achievement only requires that I place the work order. I don't have to complete the work order. So freeing up 5 slots and placing 5 more orders would put us at 92. And we could continually do this if we wanted to convert our money into garrison resources via the ogre caches. We could speed this up. But we're basically spending money to speed up an achievement to get a building that's going to earn us money. So we're spending money to get on the grind that will make us more money. It's not really worth it, I don't think. Especially not for the series. If you were going to be playing this long term, if you're going to play the account long term, I just recommend rolling an alt and getting a barn on them as well. Then you get to put in, 12 work orders a day instead of 6 work orders a day. So you're going to double the speed that you get this achievement. which means that both of your guys are going to get level 3 barns much sooner. And I think that's a whole hell of a lot better doing it that way than to spend your gold on garrison resources, only to spend those garrison resources on trap work order completion. So this just has some time left on it. I think the series will likely end before the herb garden or the mine hit level 3, which is kind of hilarious. I'll probably have my legendary ring about the same time that I get these 2 buildings to level 3 on one character. Again, if you have multiple characters doing their herb garden and their mine every single day, then you drastically increase the speed at which you get those achievements. But it's unlikely that we'll be able to get a second character up and running. I was only planning on doing this series for about 30 days. It's a kind of a good amount of time. It's, it's one sub-cycle to the game. So if you subscribe to the game and you played it for 30 days, this is about where you could expect to be. I might keep it active for another month and finish out the legendary quest line, and eventually make a video about how many more weeks it took past the series to get the legendary ring, complete the quest and all of that, and talk about how much gold I earned in the weeks that I was working on the legendary quest line. And in terms of gold made, it's just going to be what I earn in the garrison and what I earn from my mission table and what I earn from trapping. I won't play the account past those things. Garrison, LFR for the legendary quest line, and that'll be about it. So it's likely that we'll end up doing that video after the series is done. Now, I really don't think there's much more to say about the last 7 days. We've made a whole hell of a lot of progress, and we're starting to get to the point where we don't have a full day's worth of play on this character. Yesterday we did all of our normal stuff. We did Tanan, we handled our garrison, and we ended up playing our main account in the afternoon. We went and did mythics on that main account. And we still have mythics to do on this account, but the Valor is only going to help us upgrade gear that we're going to get. Right now, we're pretty much Valor capped. If we get unlucky and we don't get any gear, then that Valor is for nothing. But I'm going to try and find some more things to work on so that we have more content in this series and our past broadcasts aren't too much of our other account. Once we finish up this quest line, we're obviously going to do all of our Hellfire Citadel raiding this week, but we really have to finish this out before we can go in there. So we still have Mythics on the table for this week. We still have LFR on the table for this week. We still have normal raiding on the table for this week. But other than that, we're probably going to start cutting how much time we spend in Tanan. Doing everything Tanan offers, and when I say doing everything Tanan offers, I mean going to Lion Watch, picking up the quest off the table. It gives you 2 choices. You pick one, you go and you assault it, then you go and turn it in, and they ask you to assault 2 more bonus objectives. But that's all they ask of you. So let's say your choice is between Throne of Kil'jaeden and Felforge, and you pick Throne of Kil'jaeden. You go out here, you assault this objective, you go back to Lion's Watch, you turn it in. They're like, go out there and assault 2 more. So let's say you pick Felforge and Ironhold Harbor. Technically, you're done with the quests. You're not going to get any more rep by doing anything else out here. But you're not going to earn 14,000 Apexis every day if you stop there. Once you've turned in that first quest, Throne of Kil'jaeden, you now have the option of assaulting every other objective and getting the bonus objective bonus of 800 Apexis crystals from that zone. So even though your quest only asks you to assault 2, in order to get 14,000 Apexis a day, you also need to do Ruins of Karnak, Zeth Gol, Iron Front, and Temple of Shinar. You have to do all of them to get all that Apexis. So now that we're at a point where we have flying, and really we don't have to do Tanan at all. We could just be done with it. If we didn't care about reps, and we didn't care about earning the gold or any Apexis at all, we'd just be done. But we at least want to go out there and continue on the rep. We want to continue getting Hand of the Prophet and Order of the Awakened rep, and just see if we can get exalted in 30 days. There are some things in those inventories that those quartermasters sell that we want, and we'll talk about those if we actually make it there. But doing the full rotation is not really necessary anymore. We don't need huge amounts of Apexis. The Apexis was primarily for getting our items upgraded and getting them empowered. And now that everything is empowered, what more do we need, right? The Apexis doesn't really help us at all. Now, if we had a second character, if we were going to roll a second character, then we would keep doing Tanan in full, and every 2 days we would buy an empowered Apexis fragment, which is account bound, and then we would send it to our alt, so that our alt would have a huge leg up on getting all of their gear empowered, and he would get them to 695 much faster. So if we were gearing out a second character, we would continue doing all of Tanan. But because now we're just interested in the rep, Tanan will go from a 45-minute a day task to, 15, 20 minutes. We won't pick Throne of Kil'jaeden. We'll pick the easier of the two on the table. We'll complete the quest. We'll, hit up some of the oil spots, maybe get the big 4 guys. And that's about it. So we'll be spending a lot less time in Tanan going forward. And I don't think we have anything to fill that time with. This week was time walking. The weekly event last week was pet battles, and obviously we didn't have any interest in that. If you're new to the game and pet battles sounds like something you really want to do, take advantage of it. You can spend some time doing that and a little less time doing Tanan. Your gear will suffer, but you might be doing something that you enjoy and start to benefit from what it has to offer. This week was time walking, and the event gives you 500 Valor. It gives you an additional roll, one of these Seal of Inevitable Fate, which is huge. We only had 3 because that's how many you can get max per week, but doing this event gave us another one. So now we have 4 chances to roll for tier or for trinkets or whatever it is we're trying to go for in Hellfire Citadel. On top of giving you the roll and the 500 Valor, it also gives you a Hellfire Citadel normal chest. And in that chest can be anything except for tier out of Hellfire Citadel normal. Now the piece that we got was utter trash, so we ended up disenchanting it, but it could be good. You could get, a Blade Master trinket, you could get bow off of Manaroth, there's any number of things that you could achieve through that chest. We just got unlucky. So we spend a little time doing that. Next weekend is a Apexis bonus, which means that you just get more Apexis per kill. You'll see that during the Apexis bonus weekend, you're going to see, or bonus week, you're going to see groups out in Ironfront just killing. And they will sit there and they will kill for 5 hours, 6 hours, 10 hours. And a lot of people are out there farming for the 150,000 Apexis mount, flying mount. But a lot of people are just out there hoping to get some baleful pieces or hoping to get, enough Apexis crystals that they can fully deck out an alt or, whatever. So there are a lot of different reasons to do that. So last week we didn't really have much to do for the weekly event, but this week we actually spent a little bit of time on this. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was a lot of these empowered pieces were possible because of last Saturday, we spent about 5 hours doing LFR Call to Arms queues. Now the Call to Arms queue makes it so that you get a chest at the end, or a satchel, so to speak. And the satchel has baleful pieces in it, and it has empowered Apexis fragments. It also has medallions in it. So the cash that you get comes with 500 gold. About 1 in 10 drops an empowered Apexis fragment, and we got 3 through that. So 3 of these powered pieces are possible because of that time we spent doing LFRs. Now we had already done the LFR, right? But we went back and did it again because it was offering more bonus for being a DPS. A little bit more thought into what I did. Blackhand's Crucible is 1 boss. So when this has a DPS Call to Arms queue, you're really looking at 10 minutes worth of killing a boss. Equates to 500 gold, 2 to 5 baleful pieces, and the chance at either a Medallion of the Legion, which is worth 4,000 gold, or an empowered Apexis crystal, which allows you to boost one of your pieces to 695. So we spent about 5 hours doing this, just rolling through. We would look, and 2 of them would be DPS Call to Arms, and we would queue up for them. And we'd get in the first one, and then we'd get out of that one, and 2 of the other ones would be DPS Call to Arms, and we would queue up for those. And you can be queued into 4 different LFRs at one time. So once you queue in, regardless of whether or not the Call to Arm ends, you're getting your satchel. So you start this rotation of, you get in a dungeon, you get out, you have enough time to queue for another one, that dungeon that you were already queued for while in the other one pops, you go into that, you get out, you had already queued for the other 2, now those are on cycle, and you kind of just sit there and roll through DPS Call to Arms for hours, getting gold, medallions, empowered apexis crystals, it was hugely beneficial. Now, on peak hours, you're usually not going to see DPS call to arms. It's going to be later at night. It's going to be earlier in the morning, so not everybody is going to have access to this. But it's a huge help if you can find it. It helped us quite a bit. We probably wouldn't be where we are right now without it. We would have had to put more time into farming missives, which means that we would have had to spend more of our gold on ogre caches. It's really the only trade-off. We'd probably still be here at this eye level, but we would have had to put more effort into farming the missives from Sergeant Crawler versus doing the LFR stuff. So, kind of a cool thing to note, and a decent thing to look out for. If you're a tank or a healer, this is really no problem for you. 9 times out of 10, the dungeon queue is going to have a call to arms on it. So you can do a 10 or a 15-minute dungeon, get garrison resources, and get your cash. So you don't even have to bother with LFR. You can do something more consistent, which is just the random heroic. And even during a time walking weekend. During time walking weekends, you're getting time warp badges, you're getting gold, you're getting your satchel. So, you know, this is a great time to make some extra gold and get some empowered stuff if you're a tank or a healer. So I think that about wraps it up. Day 14 was our last recap. Today is day 21. In those 7 days, we got Draenor flying. We increased our eye level from 670 to 708. We are on our way to almost all level 3 buildings. We will be pushing into the last stage of our legendary quest line today or tomorrow. We've done all the mythics once. We've killed most of what Hellfire Citadel normal has to offer. We haven't gotten Archimond yet. We got into groups though, and that's really the signifying point, is that people are willing to take us based on our eye level into Archimond normal. That means that we can get into more groups. The groups that I got into failed, but that's to be expected when you're pugging raid content. And we'll probably see a little bit more of it when we get into heroics. But a ton of progress. Just an absolute huge amount of progress for being on day 21 of this series, and 10 of those days being the leveling process. So if you enjoyed this video, please go back and watch the other recaps. If you followed all of them, awesome. If you come and check out the stream, we go live every day. Amazing. Thank you to all the people that are following me and coming and hanging out and interacting with me while I'm live. The information for my Twitch channel is in the description below. And I hope you guys are enjoying the series. And I'll see you guys out there.